So I covered Man of Steel last time, but I'm going to wrap up my thoughts by saying I think the ending was perfect. Him going to the Daily Planet and, introducing himself as Clark Kent. I just think it was great because, the entire point of Man of Steel is it was about Superman and Clark Kent finding that sort of balance. It's about Clark Kent, Kal-El, just kind of understanding himself, finding himself, and then finding that balance between Clark Kent and Superman, and being one among the two of them. And I think by the end of the movie, that's what we see. And I think the growth doesn't stop there. I think the growth is going to continue in Batman v Superman, but I'll cover that a little later. Now, before I get into my thoughts on Batman v Superman, at least the trailers and everything we've seen, I don't get this. This movie has been getting a lot of resistance from people. And, I get it. Conceptually, when you think about it, it doesn't make sense. At least at first thought, it doesn't make sense that Batman comes in already. But really, when you break it down, you think about it, it makes complete sense. If anything, it would almost be strange if this wasn't what came next. And this is why. Because Batman is the type of character that anytime anything happens in the DC universe, anything substantial, hell, even the minute things, Batman's always the first one to investigate it. Batman's there, and he looks into it. So, of course, if there is not only alien life confirmed, but a giant catastrophe that destroys an entire city and towns and stuff like that, of course Batman's going to get involved. Of course, I mean, this is the next logical step. This is what he does. I'm sorry that this doesn't fit into your vision of what the Marvel Cinematic Universe did, and this doesn't parallel them, but this isn't the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think people need to start learning that. This makes sense. I can understand maybe an argument about Wonder Woman showing up, but again, I don't know her stake in the movie yet. I mean, I know that she'll be there at the final fight, and I know she's going to be one of the main characters, but I don't know her reason for being around. That might be explained. I haven't seen the movie yet when this video was put out. And just as far as Batman and Superman, I mean, this is the next logical step, really. Now, again, as I said in the last part, how people are not going to like me saying I like Man of Steel more than I like Iron Man. This is going to kind of continue that wave of controversy in the sense of when we're going to look at two movies. We're going to look at The Incredible Hulk and we're going to look at Iron Man 2. Incredible Hulk was a great movie, I thought. And a lot of people did like it. Incredible Hulk was kind of mixed. I know some people that didn't like it, but for the majority, I think people liked it. And then for Iron Man 2, which came right after The Incredible Hulk, people were saying that was just Avengers setup. And here's the thing. Incredible Hulk, retrospectively, now, looking back on it, because of the cast change, because of the tonal shift and stuff like that, people say The Incredible Hulk doesn't feel like it meshes with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and people still say Iron Man 2 is Avengers setup. And here's the thing. Despite both of those facts, or opinions rather, excuse me, the universe still turned out fine. The universe is still going strong. It got to where it needs to be. Now, why am I bringing that up? Because I think both Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad are more tightly linked, sequels to Man of Steel. Whereas I feel like they are continuing the narrative that was started in Man of Steel. Of course, Batman v Superman's a direct sequel to it. Suicide Squad, not so much, but it does fit in, especially with Batman showing up there, and, the Joker. I feel like this universe is connecting better initially, right out of the gate, more than the Marvel Cinematic Universe did. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe turned out fine, and it's fantastic. And I feel like, see, people call Batman v Superman Justice League setup, but that's the same thing people called Iron Man 2. They called that Avengers setup. And I don't think that about Batman v Superman. I don't think it's, I mean, it is Justice League setup, but, I mean, we have to set it up eventually, and I understand people say it's too soon, but again, I do think this is the next logical step. And Iron Man 2, I don't think that was Avengers setup, but people seem to think that. And regardless, whether it was or it wasn't, the universe turned out fine, is my point. So, if this has happened before and we've seen that it works out, why can't we give it a chance here? Why are we so quick to cross our arms and say, nope, we're not having it? But Batman v Superman, I think is going to be really good. Now, when it comes to the actual characterizations of Batman and Superman in these movies, especially Batman, we're going to talk about Batman first. Now, I covered a lot of what I'm about to say in my Batman video I put out not too long ago, but I'll cover a lot of it again. I think that I don't get that why people are saying Batman is so vastly out of character. In the most recent TV spot I saw, there was this line that Batman said where it was like, if there's even a 1%, if there's even a 1% chance that he's a threat, I have to deal with it or I have to treat it like it's an absolute certainty, or whatever, something along those lines. And I thought that was a fantastic line. I thought that was something well within Batman's character, to a point. See, Batman is someone that he's prepared for almost every scenario. That's the point. Batman is someone that he has a plan for everything. And if something was arguably a threat for him, he would be ready for it. He would be having preparation for it. Now, a lot of people that disagree with me say, well, Batman isn't this type of person to get this paranoid, to go one step beyond and even act upon this, to go out and fight Superman. Batman's the type of person to wait for Superman to come to him. Well, yes, this might seem slightly out of character for the Batman that we know, but that's the point. This is a Batman that, as we know, this is a Batman that has already dealt with the death, quote-unquote, of one of the Robins. Gordon might be gone. I don't know about that, but he might be gone. This is a Batman at the end of the line after years upon years of darkness and just horrible and and all that. And then on top of that, when he was already at that line, because I think Batman was already at a really, really dark place before the Superman Zod fight happened. And then the Superman Zod fight happened, and Batman at that point, I'm sure, was already paranoid and just broken from the years of just, darkness that, he's had to dealt with. And I'm sure he did have his fears, and I'm sure he was paranoid to some degree at that point. And then the Superman Zod fight happens, and it just kind of confirms everything that he's been worrying about, that there are greater threats out there. And on top of it, there was a huge catastrophe, and among the wreckage was one of his Wayne Towers, which I'm sure there were people inside the building that he knew. So he lost even more people. So this is a Batman that is really close to that line right now. And that's why he seems more dark and more brutal and just, that's why he's not reasoning. And that's the point. I mean, Alfred even calls him out in the trailer from what we've seen. He says, you're about to go to war. This isn't a logical thing to do. That's the point. Batman's not being, entirely logical about this. He's thinking off emotion alone. The hints of the Batman we knew are there. Batman is someone who would take a 1% chance and prepare as if it were an absolute just on the off chance that something did happen. But Batman, as we knew it, might not have dealt with it immediately. He might have waited until something bigger came of it, until Superman showed a threat. But that's the thing. This is a Batman that's so close to that line and so dark right now that I don't think he's thinking all that logically, not as logically as he would generally, and I think that's what Alfred's calling him out on. And I think that's kind of the point. I think this Batman, as I said in my other video, I think this Batman starts at a really dark place, and Superman almost starts at almost like a naive place, and I think the two of them are going to play off each other in a sense where Superman's going to play as sort of that anchor character, that a lot of the Robins generally are in the comics, where he's going to sort of begin to draw him back from that line. I think Batman's going to begin to realize that Superman isn't the monster he thought he was, and while he can't control Superman, or, while Superman is a threat, he's not the enemy either. And I think that's going to begin to pull him back from that line. And I think, in the same coin, I think a lot of the growth that was set up in Man of Steel for Superman, how Superman is officially, the two, he's Clark Kent and he's Superman, and he's found the balance and stuff like that. I think Batman is going to respectively help him grow in his own respect too. And I think that's the point of this movie. And I don't know why everyone's saying this Batman is just so out of character. I mean, this is kind of an amalgam. At least where Batman's going to be when this movie opens up is, from what I see, it's going to be kind of a combination of The Dark Knight Returns Batman, where he's really close to that line, and that's just him at the end of the line after all the darkness and years of experience, and just everything has gotten to him, and it's finally having his way with his mind. And it's kind of a Batman that, Batman in the comics, after Jason died, he did enter a dark place, and, a lot of that was manipulated during Nightfall. The Scarecrow had his way with those fears, and, just Batman was kind of in a dark place. And I think this is going to be kind of a hybrid of those two things, and I think that's the point. I think this Batman's going to be in a really bad place, and I think Superman, by the end of the movie, is going to begin to draw him back. I don't think this ruins Batman. I don't think this is out of Batman's character. I think this is a logical step, or a logical way for Batman to be behaving, granted what he's been through, before this movie opens up. So I'm actually going to end this here, and I'm going to go into more about this movie, but there's going to be so much stuff I want to cover that I want to break it up into a few more parts, so catch me for the next one.